We have a full board. But we have everybody. Excellent. Hello. Oh, Nick. All right, let's get started. I apologize for being late. So at this point, I'll call to order the Wednesday, June 13th meeting of the Hannaford Regional Technical School District. First item of business would be to introduce board members. First of all, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming today. And Suzanne, would you like to lead us off with introductions?
Maureen Morse, Addison Central School District.
Lane Schmidt, Adult and Cooperative Education.
Christina Macklin, Addison Northwest School District.
Gibson Smith, Business Manager.
Linda Barrett, Clerk.
Dana Peterson, Interim Director and Superintendent.
Jason LaRock, Workforce Investment Board.
Nick Colston, ACSD. Dan Callahan, IT Manager.
Mark Perrin, Workforce Investment Board.
Mike McGrath, Addison Northwest.
Allison Sturdivant, Mount Aid, Addison, actually the Mount Aid Unified School District.
Jim Farnham, New Haven, Community at Large member from the Addison School District. Can't remember all that.
Kelly Mills, Assistant Director of Data Students.
Missy, you gonna go?
Missy Shepherd and Workforce Investment Board.
Mike McLaughlin, Workforce Investment Board.
And obviously, we need to get. Are we missing a table?
It's over there.
Okay. Wow.
We'll fix it later.
Wow. Next would be to approve the agenda. While it doesn't say draft on it, this is a draft agenda. I have some minor changes to it. Gibson has another engagement this evening, so we'd like to move his stuff forward. So under the action agenda, we'd like to move the signed bank line of credit document and an additional item we need to add. Last month, we signed a corporate resolution to borrow on the line of credit. That document had numbers that have needed to be changed, so we have a revised document that will supersede the document we did last month. So the number has actually gone down by $14,000. But we'll talk about that one, or it's thereabouts when we get to that. So those are the two items that I'd like to change on the agenda. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to move around or add? All right, I take a motion to accept the revised agenda.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Did you want to
It's been moved.
Dan ahead?
What's that?
Did you want to move Dan's board emails ahead too, or?
We can do that. We can do that. Is that a friendly amendment?
Yes, a friendly.
Okay. So we'll bring Dan right after Gibson. Sorry about that, Dan. I was very inconsiderate of me. I apologize. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. The motion is carried. Thank you. Visitor comments. I see we don't have any visitors today. Does anyone have any community comments that have been brought to them they want to bring before the board? Okay. Correspondence, Dana.
No physical correspondence, but we have had the opportunity, 3 donations were offered to the Career Center for acceptance, so I can talk about those later under the accepting of donations, but we did have 3 community members that were interested in donating equipment/vehicles to the automotive program.
You have to talk about them now, otherwise we have to pull them out of the consent
Oh,
agenda.
so thank you. So we have County Tire is offering us a tire mounter that's in excellent condition, and we would be happy to accept that. It can be used out at North Campus if the board so chose, and then we would file the appropriate paperwork to provide them with a tax statement for the value of that piece of equipment. We also have two vehicles. One is a 2008 Toyota Yaris, and that we would also like to accept as a gift. We have a 2002 Chevy 1500 pickup truck, and once again, that is something that the North Campus facility could use. Oh, excuse me, we do have one more. We have a Honda, it's not on your list, I did get that afterwards, a Honda 2004 CRV, once again, that a community member is willing to donate to our program. Generally speaking, when vehicles are donated to our program, they are fixed up and can be resold to help improve program with equipment purchases and operations of their program. Thank you, that's all I have. Thanks for reminding me.
So next is the consent agenda, which would include the meeting minutes from May 9th, 2018, monthly accounts payable for June. Mike, do you have
The
those?
accounts payable, Gretchen, Missy and I have been meeting, it's our first time through, Missy and I together, so we are not complete. We're about 3/4 of the way through. We'll probably either finish tonight or tomorrow. But I can still let you know where we are with them. It's basically $79,873.89 for the general fund. It's up to the board if you'd like to make a recommendation upon the completion of our review to approve those.
Additionally, under the consent agenda would be to accept the donations. Tire mounter from County Tire, the 2008 Toyota Yaris, the 2002 Chevy 1500
Silverado.
truck, and what's that?
Silverado pickup truck, yep.
Okay. I'd also like to add the 2004 Honda CRV. I'm not sure that I can do that in consent agenda, but so let's not do that. And we're gonna. I'm presuming we're gonna want to remove the accounts payable for further discussion. Would that be? Is that your pleasure or no?
I would say we can keep the accounts payable in there upon completion, and then if there's a problem for some reason, they can bring it back.
Okay. So, would anyone like to remove any of these for further discussion? Not hearing anything, the consent agenda's passed. And just to be clean, I'll take a motion separately to take on that 2004, or the donation of the 2004 Honda CRV. Because it wasn't in the original consent agenda, so just to be clean. So does anyone want to make that motion?
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? What color is it?
I don't know. Rusty?
All right, hearing none. All those in favor of accepting the donation of the 2004 Honda CRV signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. All right, thank you. The motion is carried. So next item would be to,
Sign a bank line of credit.
Gibson, does it matter which order we do these in?
I think it does.
Okay. So, first item of business would be to sign the line of credit note, or the bank line of credit document. This is a document that we did not have, it wasn't ready last month. Do you have copies for the board, if you would?
Well, I have copies of the corporate resolution we're going to discuss. I have a couple copies of the, I assume that.
Do the resolution on the, I'll copy these first. If you want. What do I need? Both of these? Okay, so why don't you do the corporate resolution, I'll take care of this.
So,
11?
I'm gonna turn that over to Gibson for the corporate resolution. This was the note we signed, or the document we signed last month, that had an error in it, so we need to.
Yeah, it was, the document that I provided last year was based on last year's figures, which was 1,125,000, I believe. And the cash projection that I provided the bank this year was a little less. Our cash flow needs were a little less. So that's what you see on the corporate resolution. Has that been circulated yet? Oh, okay. So the amount is $1,030,055.
So we'll let that get circulated, and give you a chance to read it, and then we'll take questions or a motion to accept. Do we have any questions? If not, I'd take a motion to accept or authorize the signature of this document.
I'll move this.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. And we have one abstention. Mike's abstaining. Okay, so I'm gonna sign this, and I'm gonna send it around the table for signatures. So I'm gonna send it to you, Nick. So the next item is the line of credit document, which is coming around. Give you a quick moment to read through that.
Because we'll be signing, the board will be signing that as well. So there are two documents that will be signed. One is the line of credit, and one is it's called a non-arbitrage certificate. It's indicating that we are borrowing based on expected receipt of tax monies. That's correct.
Any questions? Missy?
You already said it, I missed it. So the municipal note line of credit has a date of July 1st, 2018. Is that right?
That's correct. This is for FY, our school year beginning July 1st through June 30th of 19.
Any additional questions for Gibson? All right, hearing none, I take a motion to authorize signature both of these documents.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, and one abstention. All right, so I'm going to sign these and get these going around. Here's the first one. So officially the motion's carried. Sorry about that. Got ahead of myself. Next item of business would be email addresses. The board email addresses. This is not officially an action item. It's more of an informational thing. I'd asked Dana to make board emails available just for the safety and the convenience of board members. All of our correspondence back and forth as board members is subject to public records. And all of our email correspondence is subject to Vermont open meeting law. So, I know many of us run multiple emails, business, personal. There's a few that already have board emails from other boards. And the importance of keeping that separate, is, and in my mind, paramount, because it can get really muddy if, an inquiry requires digging through all your personal emails. So originally we were going to talk about this in, I believe it was March's meeting, which got canceled. There's been an email that's gone out with your email address, I believe. You said some of you have not received those yet. Actually, you probably didn't receive it because it was probably before you were on the board, is my guess, when that one actually went out. I don't know that for sure.
I'll see Suzanne
But
and
that's,
work it out.
so, anyone who hasn't, we'll get that taken care of. So I'm gonna turn it over to Dan. Like I said, most of you have received an email, and I believe the email had username and password, but no real instructions on how to set it up. In your packet is a quick tutorial on how to do that. So at this point, we'll turn it over to Dan for any questions.
I guess I'll just start out by just saying, you should have a packet that shows you how to set up your Gmail account.
And that should have gone out
It's in the board packet.
in the board
Yeah.
packet. Does anybody not have this, just out of curiosity? In your board packet, does anybody not get the setup information? Great, okay, thank you.
And that sort of shows you how to set it up when you're sitting at a computer. And I'll also pass around instructions on how to forward mail from your PAHCC account to another account. So if you don't want to be checking 3 or 4 different accounts, you can forward it. But you should, in these instructions, it does say leave the mail on your PHCC account. So it'll forward it so you can see it, but it will leave it on here. Also, if you use a phone, probably the easiest way to get your mail is go to either the Apple or the Android store and download the free version of Gmail. It's just an app that you just click add an account and put in your info.
Makes it very easy.
And if you didn't get that email account or password, those should have gone out. I believe Emily sent those out probably 4 weeks ago, but I guess.
A suggestion, show of hands of anybody who doesn't know that they didn't get an email or anything about a new account. So Suzanne and Linda.
Okay.
So Dan, I'll have you write their names down, and they can touch base with you, you can touch base with them.
Okay.
And we'll make sure in the next couple of days that they will get that
Okay.
to their current email address that we have on file.
And if you're having trouble getting in, one of the things I've noticed is in the passwords, the password is sort of surrounded by brackets. The brackets are part of the password. That sort of gets us past one of the, the criteria that Google wants, a character, a number, so on, uppercase, lowercase. So that, maybe that clarifies a few things.
And if anybody has any questions afterwards and needs a tutorial, Dan will be happy to answer any questions over the phone with you, so feel free to give him a call. Yep, you can reach him at the Career Center here at the main number.
So, once again, if for some reason someone's not gonna use their account, let Dana know. He'll make sure that the list for distribution is current.
Goes to preferred email.
Yeah, so.
But as Dan was saying, if you can figure out, if we can set it up for it to be forwarded, it can go to your primary account, but just goes through, it's a pass-through through PAHCC, so that if any correspondence is taking place for open records, public records law compliance, then it's just right there, and you don't have to sort through and spend time figuring out what is private and what is public.
So any questions for Dan? Excellent. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming. And
Thank you, Gibson.
thank you, Gibson.
See you, Gibson.
So next would be policy 2.4, financial planning and budgeting. This is a monitoring report. You should see a copy of it in your packet. We do this one. This is one of the monitoring reports we see 4 times a year, if I remember correctly. I'm going to turn it over to Dana to hit on the highlights and field any questions.
Okay. First of all, Gibson has reported that there are no conditions or situations that would place the center or the board at risk, and that we have been following the applied system of internal controls, meeting periodically. In fact, we were meeting earlier this evening, Gibson and Gretchen and I, going over the end of the year budget. And all of our federal and state funds are received by direct deposit from the agency of Ed. And we have sufficient funds to address all of the board prerogatives and establish governance, investment policy. A couple of figures that you might want to know on the backside. We have encumbered $19,899 in funds for FY18 to cover the shortfall that was voted on back in June of 2017 for the clawback. And the Health Reserve Fund has $50,000 in that. At some point, probably in the July meeting, we'll be able to give you an update about how much has been expended out of that particular fund that we set up. And the final figure of $25,000 has been a transfer to the Building Equipment and Reserve Fund. I think that's all I have.
Okay, any questions for Dana? All right, hearing none, take a motion to accept the monitoring report for policy 2.4, financial planning and budgeting.
I'll move.
It's been moved, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, the motion is carried. So the next item on our agenda is the HRA health insurance side letter agreement. So, I'm hoping I split that right. So, I'm sending around the document that I'm going to ask you guys to authorize me to sign this evening. While this particular this copy isn't signed, it's my understanding this has been signed by both the union rep, the building union rep for the staff and for the teachers. as well as Dana, and it's just waiting board signature. So I'm waiting for your approval to authorize me to sign it. If anyone wants to talk about how we got here, and what the backstory behind this is, and the documents that this came from, and that process, I believe that probably should be talked about in executive session. I brought paperwork for that, if someone wants to go into executive session to have that conversation. So, just throwing that out there. So, in general, the non-executive session version of this is the union came to us about 2 weeks ago, probably about 2 weeks ago, with a request. We had a meeting of the negotiating committee, which, since we haven't established a negotiating committee for this upcoming round, Mark participated in that as he chaired that negotiating committee for this contract that this letter affects. This comes out of some problems that were statewide with using the debit cards for prescriptions. At the end of the day, prescription payment is due when the meds are prescribed or picked up, not like medical services. So money for, there wasn't money in the accounts to debit it because we hadn't put money in yet. First dollars are on the employee, but people hadn't met those yet. It wasn't, the system wasn't working. We believe in our in our discussions that this is a cost neutral. We believe this is cost neutral to the district, in the aspect that the out-of-pocket expense on the employee is relatively low, and typically the doctor's visits to get the prescription are going to get you to the point where you've met your, that threshold of the out-of-pocket that's set in our contract. So we're not anticipating that this is going to change that. They're still going to meet that. Everyone's still going to meet those out-of-pocket requirements throughout the year, before we kick in. But we will be kicking in first dollars for prescriptions. This particular document has two sunset clauses in it, essentially. If we deem that we want to change vendors the first of the year, and we have a vendor that the debit cards will work with prescriptions, this side letter goes away. Additionally, we're coming into a negotiating year, and this side letter goes away come June 30th of 2019, regardless of whether we have another contract in place. So the master agreement will continue. If there isn't a new agreement, this side letter will not continue with it. So there's my spiel.
And you had this reviewed by council?
This has been reviewed by council. The union, this is the cut down version. This is unique to us. The problem's not unique to us, but this document is different than other boards have signed. This was vetted through our attorney, and then sent back to the union leadership for review and approval.
I'll move that we accept the side letter.
Okay. Is there a second on that? It's been seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. All right, the motion is carried. You have, I'm presuming that version
I
is
think
in.
it's still down in the
Okay,
middle.
well,
I
I'll
don't
sign
think
that,
it's
I'll sign that before I leave today.
Yeah.
All right, so let me get rid of,
I just forgot to put it in.
so, next on our agenda is retreat planning. Historically, we have not met in August. And in July, we have a board retreat. First thing I want to talk about is, want to see if there is a commitment to do a board retreat and what works best for the board. I'm anticipating a half-day retreat, either, ideally on Wednesday, the 10th, I believe it is. 11th, the 11th, which would be a regularly scheduled board meeting. We could either do the morning, or the afternoon. So it is, I'm assuming everyone's got at least the evening blocked out to come hang out here, but. So, we've done a variety of different things. Dana and I have been having a bunch of conversations around how we should shape that this year. I'm hoping that the community outreach group can have a little help in shaping that a little more. One of the things that Dana and I batted around is the monitoring of our ends. We've never really delved deep into how we monitor that, and what options we have to be able to determine whether or not we are meeting our ends. In some training that Dana and I attended a month or so ago, Williston? Yeah. The Williston School District was doing a brief presentation on Winooski? Sorry about that. Winooski was doing a presentation on how they were monitoring their ends. And that kind of, at that point, I'm like, yeah, for policy governance to work and to work efficiently, the monitoring needs to be rigorous, needs to be sustained and consistent. And at the end of the day, our ends are what's really important. And if we don't have good measuring tools for those ends, we don't really know if we're doing our job, as a board, as a center. So that's one of the items that we would be addressing. The rest of it's going to get vetted out this year or this month. We've brought in the past. We've brought others in to facilitate this. I plan on doing the same. Once we determine, I haven't made those contacts yet, but I have a list that I'm considering. Winooski, the Winooski superintendent and board chair, are near the top of that list. So do we have a preference, morning or afternoon?
We are talking about July, is that correct?
We are talking about July, and the intent would be not to meet in August.
My preference would be the morning.
I have a commitment at noon in Rochester that I have to be at, so you can leave just one person.
7 to 11.
7 to 11 with a bag lunch so that she can.
We'll give her breakfast.
All right.
I prefer not to drive back and forth with Bridgeport. So, I mean, if we do it in the afternoon, then we can just roll into the board meeting after that.
So actually what we typically will do is we'll do the board meeting. The board meeting will be the first half hour of that meeting, and then we'll go into the retreat.
The morning works.
So we'll do an abbreviated board meeting.
And we usually provide lunch.
So I should see a show of hands who'd like to do it in the morning.
What's the other option?
The afternoon.
Like from 5 to 8, or is that what
Well,
you're saying?
I guess we could do 3 options: morning, afternoon, evening. It's your pleasure. It's your board retreat. I'm available all day.
How long is your commitment?
Couple hours. I mean, it takes an hour to get there, hour and a half, so unfortunately, it's right in the middle of the day. Morning or evening?
Okay, so you'll go either way there. So let's see, who wants to do evening? No one wants to do evening. Who wants to do afternoon? Okay, we're gonna do morning.
Okay.
So I will,
You want to look at a time so I can give that to?
we're gonna do 7 to 11.
Seriously?
You usually have 4-hour retreats?
It's your, we normally, yeah,
With
it's,
the board meeting plus the retreat, it's usually.
usually it's, what we've done in the past is we've started at noon and gone until 4. We've started at 8 and gone until noon, so.
I think one year we started at 7.
That would work for me.
I mean, if you
What,
wanted to.
8 o'clock?
No, actually, that really wouldn't work for me either. Morning is not good for me personally.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna send around a doodle poll.
Perfect.
So, and then if everyone could weigh in on that, I'll make sure that, I'm not sending it to your Career Center accounts tonight. So I'll send it to wherever you got it, you've been getting, your emails. So
Can you include me in that?
I will.
Thank you.
So, all right. Unless there's any further discussion on that.
But it will be July 11th.
It is
correct?
it will be July 11th, and we will not be meeting in August unless there's something that comes up that's unforeseen. We'll either do it here at North Campus.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you get some kind of notice, so I'm not at North Campus.
Yeah,
Yeah, North Campus would be good.
yeah. I think it's, we've done North Campus in the past and it works well.
Yeah, that'd
So-
be good.
And are you serving breakfast or lunch?
It all depends on the doodle poll. All right. Moving
We would be
on.
happy to provide both lunch and lunch and breakfast.
Moving on, the superintendent's report. Dana.
My turn. Thank you. My report is in the packet. It's a relatively short report this month, just highlighting a couple of things happening at the end of the year. The Natural Resource Management got lots of kudos for their demonstrations, both here at Middlebury as a promotional for the program, as well as up at Mount Abe. Lots of interest in the program and people asking questions. So I'll let you read the rest of the text there. You may have already done that. We also had 2 8th grade exploration visits. Only one at the time of the writing of this report. We had another one just yesterday. So we're inviting 8th graders to come, and we're particularly targeting those 8th graders that might be interested in career and tech, and they know that, to see if there are ways that we can help with scheduling and opportunities for them to get to the Career Center in 9th or 10th grade. And we'll be doing some outreach as an extension of that next fall, and we're hoping to be able to run some shadow opportunities for about 2 weeks, and pairing up a Career Center student with a middle school student to be able to shadow over a 2-week period, to get them acquainted with the operation of various programs and what would be a good option for them as a 9th or 10th grader moving up to the high school. So to keep that in front of them. We also applied for an Agency of Education Innovation Grant. We're still waiting to hear. We had a phone conversation after the initial application, and that went very well. So we're looking to hear. We might be funded up to $75,000 to implement virtual reality software into our programs. We have aligned 12 different software applications, which are free at the moment, with the equipment purchases, and we can incorporate those into something such as plant and animal science, anatomy and physiology, automotive repair, diesel applications, as well as architecture, engineering, and many of the other programs that we have here. So we're excited about that, and there would be some staffing funding to go along with that. I do not have any update because they haven't. I thought that they were going to have made their determinations by tonight, so my apologies. That's still on hold, waiting for them to respond. And finally, the staffing update. I want to signal my appreciation to Gibson, Denise, Gretchen Bailey, and L.T. Danforth, who served on the screening committee for selecting the next administrative assistant, and I'm pleased to announce that that will be Patrice Alexander, who has served for the last 15 years as our receptionist at the front desk. She was the unanimous choice of the screening committee, and I support that nomination. So I'll be working with Patrice to work out the details of her contract, and we've already sat down to talk about a few parameters so that she knows what she can, looking forward to. I'd also like to thank Glenn Schmidt and Hayden Thompson as they're leading the search committee for an instructor, and we have now 3 inquiries for a new instructor, and we're hoping to have a few more. But the interest is seeming to spread, as are the potential applicants that are stepping forward and inquiring. And finally, Mike Adamant and Wendy Pratt, along with Woody Danforth, have been leading the search for a new para-educator to be embedded in programs as needed, based on student needs and program needs. And so they have been screening and have started to recommend some finalists to me. I'll make the final decision hopefully within the next week.
Great. Thank you, Dana.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Dana? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Next will be the Dean of Students report. There's a copy of that in your board packet. Turn it over to Ms. Mills to.
We've got lots of things happening in the end of the school year. The ART students went up to the Plum Theater to cap off their Young Playwright Festival. And if anyone attended the student-written one-acts in November, that you had the opportunity to vote on the one you wanted to see go to the festival to be performed. And so that was the opportunity for that to happen. And then the National Art Honor Society had their induction ceremony, and Anna Browdy was the Outstanding Capstone Project recipient, and she also won the contest or competition to have her design selected for the 40th anniversary of Middlebury's Festival on the Green this summer, and I included what that design looked like in your packet. Also, the Ag Academy was busy. They were in the Memorial Day Parade here in Middlebury, and they passed out vegetable and flower starts from the greenhouse, which was always kind of a fun thing to do rather than candy or trinkets and things. And we've got chicks that were hatched in the classroom, and on Monday we processed 51 birds out of North Campus in the mobile processing unit, and that was because I'm transitioning to sustainable ag in the fall. I apprenticed with Cheryl and Lynn Cole on Monday. We processed 51 birds in 5.5 hours. And I was like, wow, this is really good. I was really afraid I would end up under a table because usually that stuff, but it was terrific. Which is why I'm not a vet and I'm teaching ag. So anyway, yeah, it worked really good. The USDA inspector was super impressed. She's like, I remember being here at times when we've been here to 6 or 8 o'clock at night trying to get birds done, and the kids just stepped up. We had 3 students from Sustainable Ag who just recently graduated, came back and donated their time to make sure that the project got completed. So it was terrific. We also had our end of the year celebration for our departing completers, and that was done on May 31st up in Virgins High School, and I thank all the board members who were able to come to that. It was super hot in there. The last time we were at Virgins, we froze, so it was like, oh my word. So anyway, that was terrific, and we've also got some room changes over the summer. So we took in proposals from teachers who wanted to just kind of throw out different ideas in terms of changing the room arrangements. And once we had those, we had 3 or 4 suggestions, and we were able to honor all of those suggestions, and it was a committee of Dana, John Curler, Len, and I, and we sat down and looked at everything. So the new changes are that corner classroom upstairs here used to be a long time ago was office systems and then videotech, and most recently was our costume lab, is now going to be moved downstairs to where medical professions has been right along. That's going to make it closer to design and illustration and visual communications, as well as the theater, program. So that should be a lot easier to access that for them. Medical professions is going to move upstairs. They will have the opportunity to access sunlight It was kind of a shame to have costumes and sewing machines accessing sunlight, whereas we had a classroom that was like in the innards of the building. Alti Danforth is going to retain her spot downstairs next to the play lab as a learning lab for the students, but she's going to go across the hall here and be in a larger classroom and have storage. So she's going to be moved upstairs as well. So those are some exciting moves that are happening this summer for teachers. And so our custodial and maintenance staff will be really busy. So that's all I have.
Excellent.
Any questions?
So I'm presuming that there'll be chicken at the board retreat.
Oh, to be honest with you, Jason, I think just about all those chickens we processed are already
Really?
sold.
Well, that's too bad.
Right? Yeah, it's interesting, yeah. So, yeah, they're all spoken for.
Nice.
Sorry.
Nice.
Lynn was
Chicken
trying to
for breakfast.
sell me one time there, and I said, well, I probably can't put it in the freezer, because it's been over at the auto shop eating antifreeze all day, probably won't freeze.
Ouch. Any other questions for Kelly? Thank you very much. Very informative. Len, the adult tech ed report, would you like to, there's a copy of it in your packet. I'll turn it over to Len to hit the highlights and field any questions.
I'm just going to just briefly highlight YouthWorks. This time last year, we had just received word that the summer program, YouthWorks program, was going to be funded a couple of weeks before, and had, in the middle of June, 11 applicants for 12 places, so it was a less than selective process. This year we have over 20 applicants for 12 places, so I'm excited that that's going to raise the level of commitment for students to that program. And we, I can't remember if I reported this yet or not, but we received a $25,000 in grant funds from McClure Foundation and Vermont Community Foundation for a school year YouthWorks collaboration with Vermont Adult Women as well.
Nice. Nice. Any questions for Len? All right. Thank you very much. Next would be policy 4.1, governing style, which is the board evaluation. Do I have a volunteer to?
And for Mike, this Mike.
Mike, would you like to do it?
Sure. Okay, overall, I think we had a good meeting. A few minutes late getting started, but I think very productive. We still don't have a retreat set up, but we're on that. And everybody took their turn, so awesome.
All right. Thank you very much. I apologize for the delay in getting paperwork to you guys, and I'll get that doodle poll out this week to you. We do have the need for an executive session tonight. It's a two-part executive session, both on personnel, but for two different reasons. So, take a motion to.
Move to go into executive session, discuss personnel.
Okay. Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying nay. Okay, so we'll be going into executive session. For the first session, I'd like the board and Dana.
Okay.
And then the second portion of that, just the board. So, thank you everyone for coming.